Hello, and once again I invite you to the material from Arena of Honor. This time, which rarely happens to us, we landed in the frozen north, under the banner of the Stark family. I wouldn't say that I wasn't worried. Again, we had 8 members from the permanent team, and 2 people added from the pool of solo players. It wouldn't be a bad thing if not for one problem from the Tyro family. Well, this was the player I was most afraid of. His presence during this meeting was not a dream thing, because his infantry could definitely ruin my fun on many fronts of this match. However, was I right to be afraid of only one person? Maybe there was also a danger lurking in other families that I was not aware of. You will find out in a moment by watching this video. Our neighbors overslept with defense, which gave a chance to start the event with 2 clan castles. Unfortunately, our invading army turned out to be too weak at the beginning of the match. Defenders, using archers as a starting point for defending the castle, have shown quite good understanding, as their fragility is compensated by the castle's base army as well as the support sent. The attack commanders generated by the system are not compatible with the army, which means that taking over a clan's castle can take a really long time. The beginning, as is often the case in Arena, is more of a test of patience in taking altars than an actual test of strength. System defense is weak, and you can take any altar without a lord, but holding out for 2 minutes can be much more difficult. Organized infantry, as you can see in the second report, is a pain for me. Here we have, if you can say so, a double synergy of weakness and bleed. To tell the truth, it won't work properly. Ree and Lero need regular attacks to activate, but once Latskarin starts healing troops, she will do it regularly and all regular attacks will become attacks on the weak point, which will not allow Ree and Lero's awakening skills to activate. Of course, enough time will pass before Latskarin starts healing for us to be spectators of the bleed effects, but the lack of Sonara's presence makes their number ridiculously small. However, if Sonara were in the lineup, the opponent would not be able to attack the weak point, so the weakness synergy would lose its race and detra. Do you understand what I mean? Dragon Pit is always welcome for 2 reasons. It strengthens our army with a better dragon, and it prevents the enemy army from strengthening with the same. My strike hit the female cavalry synergy perfectly. Despite having deaneries, they couldn't resist me because attacks on the weak point don't miss. Her awakening ability had a residual effect at the beginning of the battle. And why residual? Because my Arslan heals earlier than Drake, despite only 2 units. Additionally, I have the appropriate dragon ability, which also makes it harder to disarm my army. Deaneries, Margary and Uma are not good choices against me. However, I sat inside for a very, very long time. I haven't received such a kick in a long time. A second threat appeared. As much as I generally dislike infantry and bleed synergy, I simply hate such a well-organized synergy. Not only is it really juicy in terms of power itself, but also the presence of all exclusive weapons, as well as Seg. The difference between a commander equipped with an exclusive weapon and one without is huge. In theory, the presence of Seg instead of the more frequently chosen Lero is unnecessary, but let's look at it more closely. Lero increases the health of troops and gives a chance to critical hit every 4 attacks. Seg, on the other hand, increases the total statistics at the beginning of the battle. A lot breaks down here about his exclusive weapon, because just equipping it extends the effect of the effect by 5 seconds. Ree also has her own weapon, so the number of attacks required for a critical attack has decreased by 5, which results in the redundancy of Lero, who only has a chance to critical hit. Strong and solid bleed synergy against my weakness synergy. I had no chance. Of course, the difficulty of the challenge didn't make us give up on trying to take over the City of Glory. However, surviving until the end of the countdown is really hard. We've already met him in this video. Double synergy, bleed and weakness. Despite having tier 5 on my side and a numerical advantage, I still lost. Counters to other types of troops are so important. That's right, we're not giving up. We still don't have the first place secured. It will happen only when we take over the City of Glory, or taking it will take longer than the end of the match. In this case, we had to keep fighting. The catapults weakened the defense, just like the rest of the clans didn't give up, so the fighting continued. As I often say, getting in is a piece of cake compared to holding out for a few minutes. We held out for the first strike, although the opponent was strong. However, here too there is a difference in the commanders, specifically Margary and Annie on my side, and Hector and Patilo on the opponent's side. Both approaches are correct, but everything leans towards the type of fighting. Annie and Margery gain more importance the more armies there are on both sides, while Hector and Patilo strengthen the army itself. There he is. I was afraid of him the most. Almost the most powerful bleed synergy I've ever encountered, and it still sends shivers down my spine. I'm still very surprised that 20% of his army was defeated. The aforementioned Margery and Annie played a large part in this, because here we have 3 men on whom Margery's disarming can work. A disarmed army doesn't deal damage for a certain number of seconds, so even hitting the jackpot in the form of continuous triple additional attacks couldn't prevent constant misses. Annie's sending from the battlefield also helped a lot. They fulfilled their role as best they could, but here the opponent is simply unbeatable in my current strength. I have to grow a lot to be able to even take up the gauntlet in such clashes. That's all for today. I invite you only for a summary. The overall results surprised me a lot. After regularly taking over towers and catapults, I was sure of a high place, especially since we were not in any danger of losing the clan castle. What surprised me was the result of House Tyrol. Apparently too many other houses focused on them, not allowing us to take over altars of the maiden, which resulted in a low increase in points from trade. House Baratheon, on the other hand, was in a losing position trying to take on us for the aforementioned buildings. It could not have worked if they did not have a solid background that would snatch altars of the warrior from us, and that did not happen, despite fierce battles. When building camps instead of trade, we must have a plan B. It could be taking over another castle of the house, or enough force to control most of altars of the warrior. In this case, they put everything on one card, and this card turned out to be unlucky. The result of this meeting is favorable for us, of course. However, it is still puzzling. But what can I complain? Not at all. In these unfavorable conditions, we came out with a shield, and that's the most important thing. Thank you for today, and see you soon.